The phone wouldn't stop vibrating. It was face down on the hotel nightstand, buzzing like something trapped. Angry, desperate, alive. I didn't touch it. Outside, the ocean moved slowly, like it had all the time in the world. Waves rolled in, crashed, retreated. No urgency, no panic. The kind of calm that feels insulting when your life is on fire. The screen lit up again. One vibration, then another, then three at once. I flipped the phone over. 52 missed calls. My brother's name stacked on itself like a warning. My mother's right after. Unknown numbers. Then him again. I exhaled through my nose. Slow. Controlled. The way you breathe when you don't want your hands to shake. This was supposed to be their wedding weekend. This was supposed to be perfect. And something was breaking without me there to hold it together. I sat on the edge of the bed, still wearing the clothes I'd fallen asleep in. The room smelled like salt and sunscreen and freedom. I hadn't felt that word in years. Freedom. I picked up the phone, not to answer, just to feel its weight. I remembered his voice from 2 days ago. Calm. Polished. Rehearsed. It's better if you don't come, he'd said, like he was offering me a favor. You're socially unfit for this kind of event. Socially unfit. The words landed clean, sharp. No emotion attached. Like a diagnosis. I hadn't argued. That part shocked him. I said okay. I wished him happiness. I hung up. Then I booked the vacation. One way. No refund. I hadn't even packed properly. Just enough clothes to disappear in. And now, here I was. While they were unraveling, the phone vibrated again. A voicemail. I pressed play. What did you do? My brother's voice cracked. Answer me. This isn't funny. I deleted it. Another? Please. My mother whispered. Call us back. Delete. I stood up and walked to the balcony. The wind pushed against my face like it knew something I didn't. Below, the pool glowed blue, empty and still. For the first time in years, no one needed me, and it terrified them. I leaned on the railing, watching the horizon. Somewhere, hundreds of miles away, chairs were missing. Vendors were confused. Schedules were collapsing. People were asking questions no one could answer. Because I wasn't there. Because I had been removed. And removed things stopped working. The phone vibrated again. This time, I smiled. Not because I was happy, but because I finally understood something important. They didn't exclude me because I was unfit. They excluded me because I was holding too much. And now, they were feeling the weight of my absence. I went back inside, placed the phone on the bed, face down, and let it scream. The silence after I turned the phone face down was loud. It filled the room, pressed against my ears, demanded attention. I let it. I showered slowly, like I had nowhere to be. The water ran hot, then cold, then hot again. I watched the steam fade, the mirror clear. My face looked different without tension holding it in place. Lighter, stranger. They were still calling when I stepped out. I ignored it and dressed. Downstairs, the hotel lobby smelled like coffee and expensive indifference. A couple laughed near the elevators. Someone complained about towels. Normal life. Continuing, even when mine had finally stopped orbiting theirs. I sat by the window and ordered breakfast for one. While waiting, I opened my email. That's when I saw it. A forwarded chain, accidentally sent. My brother's name at the top. My sister's underneath. She can't come, she'd written. You know how she is. She'll make it about herself. People will ask questions. I don't want that energy. Energy. That's what I had been reduced to. Something disruptive. Something to manage. I scrolled. My mother replied. You're right. It's better this way. She always ruins milestones. I stopped breathing for a moment. Not because it hurt. Because something clicked. Memories rearranged themselves. Conversations replayed with different meaning. All those times I was told to let it go. To be the bigger person. To not start anything. It wasn't about peace. It was about control. I closed the email and took a sip of coffee that suddenly tasted bitter. Across the room, a family sat together. A father pouring juice. A mother cutting pancakes. A kid laughing too loud. The sound pierced something deep in my chest. I looked away. I had spent years making myself smaller so others could feel comfortable. Softer words. Quieter reactions. Apologies I didn't owe. I had mistaken that for love. Now, I'd see it clearly. I was never invited to belong. I was tolerated to function. The phone vibrated again. This time, a message came through. The venue is asking for you. I stared at it. The venue. Not my brother. Not my mother. The business. I didn't reply. I paid my bill and walked out into the sunlight. On the beach, I lay on a chair and closed my eyes. The ocean moved in rhythm, steady and uncaring. I let my thoughts drift backward, pulling threads I had ignored for years. The time my name was left off a contract. The time my approval was needed, but my presence wasn't. The way everyone relaxed when I said, "I'll handle it." I always handled it, until I didn't. That was the betrayal, not the wedding. The realization that my usefulness was the only reason I was kept close. I sat up and checked my phone again. 68 missed calls now. A new voicemail came through. My brother again. Panicked. They're saying the deposit never cleared. The caterer won't release the food. The coordinator can't find the paperwork. What did you do? I listened carefully, not to his words, to the fear underneath them. I typed a reply. I did nothing. And it was true. I hadn't done anything. I just stopped doing everything. I turned the phone off. For the first time in my life, I let something burn without trying to put it out. The phone stayed off. For the rest of the day, that was the hardest part. Not the silence. Not the guilt that tried to creep in like a reflex. It was resisting the instinct to fix what was breaking. I walked the shoreline instead, barefoot, letting the water cut around my ankles. Every step felt like unlearning something old. Every wave erased a version of me they depended on. By sunset, I turned the phone back on. It exploded. Messages loaded in waves, stacking, overlapping, screaming for order. Where are you? Answer us. This is your responsibility. Do you know what you've done? Call me now. I scrolled slowly, calmly, like I was reading someone else's life. Then I saw it. A new email. Subject, urgent contract confirmation required. From the venue. I opened it. They needed my signature, my authorization, my approval. Everything was frozen without it. My name sat at the bottom of the email like a fingerprint left behind at a crime scene. I didn't reply. Instead, I opened my documents folder. I hadn't planned this, but I had prepared without knowing it. Years of receipts, signed agreements, emails where I was copied but never thanked, messages where decisions were made without me, then handed to me to execute. I read them all, slowly, methodically. This wasn't chaos. This was design. They had built their perfect day on my layer, my silence, my reliability, and then erased me from the picture. I lay back on the bed and stared at the ceiling fan spin, round and round. Predictable. That's what I had been to them. Predictable. I thought of my brother's voice again. Socially unfit. I smiled. If I was unfit, then why was everything collapsing without me? The phone rang. I answered this time. His breathing was loud, uneven. Where the hell are you? I let a beat pass. Just enough. On vacation, I said. You can't do this, he snapped. You're ruining everything. No, I corrected calmly. I'm not fixing it. Silence. Then, lower, sharper. You're doing this on purpose. I closed my eyes. Yes, I said. The word felt clean. He hung up. I knew what would come next. Blame would turn to begging. Begging would turn to threats. Threats would turn to shame. It always did. But I wasn't there to receive it anymore. I opened my laptop, not to help, to observe. I watched the chaos through forwarded emails, panicked texts, half-formed accusations. Vendors demanded answers. The coordinator demanded access. The venue demanded payment. And every demand pointed to me. They had no backup. No plan B. No one else who knew how the machine worked. I realized something then. Sitting alone in a hotel room while a wedding disintegrated hundreds of miles away. I had never been family. I had been infrastructure. And infrastructure is invisible until it's gone. The phone buzzed again. This time, it was my mother. I let it ring. Let it stop. Let it ring again. I didn't answer, because the next time I spoke to them, it would be on my terms. The truth didn't arrive like a scream. It arrived like paperwork. At 6:42 a.m., my inbox refreshed. Subject, Final notice contract termination. From the venue. I opened it slowly, already knowing what it would say, because I had written the clause myself. Years ago, back when I still believed loyalty was permanent. If the primary contact is removed from the event without written consent, the agreement becomes void. Primary contact. Me. They had removed me. Formally, publicly, casually. I scrolled down. The cancellation was complete. No refunds. No rescheduling. No exceptions. I closed the laptop and sat very still on the edge of the bed. This was it. The moment where chaos turned into consequence. The phone rang again. I answered. My brother didn't bother pretending anymore. "What the hell did you do?" he yelled. I waited until he ran out of breath. Then I said quietly, "Nothing you didn't tell me to do." "What does that mean?" "You said I was unfit," I replied. "So I removed myself." "You knew this would happen." "Yes." Silence slammed between us. I could hear people shouting in the background, someone crying, a door slamming. My mother's voice broke through, high and panicked. "Put her on. Put her on." The phone changed hands. Her tone shifted instantly, soft, sweet, the voice she used when she needed something. "Baby, please. We didn't mean it. You know how your sister gets. We just needed you to be flexible." Flexible. That word. I looked out the window at the ocean. Endless, unmoved. "You didn't need me," I said. "You needed control." "That's not fair." "No." And gently. "What wasn't fair was using me for years, and then pretending I didn't exist." She started to cry. "Real or strategic? I didn't care." "Just fix this," she whispered. "Please. People are watching." I smiled. That was the truth. Not love. Not family. Not regret. Witnesses. "I can't," I said. "Why?" My brother shouted in the background. "Because I don't work there anymore." I replied. "You fired me." The line went dead. I placed the phone down carefully, like it was something fragile and already broken. An hour later, my email exploded. Messages from relatives, friends, strangers. "What happened? Is it true? Are you okay? Why did you do this?" I answered none of them. Instead, I forwarded one email, the one where my brother wrote, "Don't invite her, she doesn't belong." I sent it to the family group chat. Then I left the chat. The reveal spread fast. People saw the messages, the receipts, the proof. The story changed. Suddenly, I wasn't dramatic. I was erased. Suddenly, I wasn't difficult. I was exploited. My brother's wedding never happened. The photos never got taken. The perfect day never existed. And everyone knew why. I closed my laptop. The truth had done its job. The confrontation didn't happen in person. Of course not. That would have been too easy, too loud, too emotional. I chose distance. Distance makes people honest. My brother showed up at my door 3 days later anyway. I saw him through the peephole, wrinkled suit, red eyes. A man who had finally discovered gravity. I didn't open the door. I unlocked my phone. There were already 117 missed calls now. From him, from my mother, from my father, who hadn't spoken to me in understanding years. Only instructions. I answered none. Instead, I sent one message. "Check your email, then leave." I watched him from the shadow as he looked down at his phone. Watched his face change. Confusion first, then panic, then that slow, horrifying understanding when the ground gives way, and there's nothing underneath. He knocked. Once. Hard. I didn't move. He knocked again. Weaker. Then the email opened. I had scheduled it weeks ago, back when they told me I was socially unfit, back when I smiled and said okay. The email went to everyone, the entire family, the in-laws, the wedding party, screenshots, voice notes, messages, contracts, proof that I had planned the wedding, paid for it, managed it, saved it from collapsing more than once. Proof that I was removed the moment I stopped agreeing with everything. And then, the final attachment. A message my brother had sent to his fiancée. "She's nothing. She won't do anything. She always caves." I heard a sound escape his mouth. Not a word. A fracture. He slid down the wall outside my door like gravity had finally remembered him. I opened the door then. Just a little. Enough for him to see my face. calm, rested, peaceful. You ruined my life, he whispered. I tilted my head. No, I said. I stopped fixing it for you. He tried to stand. Failed. She left, he said. My fiancée, she left. Her parents pulled the funding. Everyone knows now. I nodded. Yes. You planned this, he said. I didn't deny it. I planned my exit, I corrected. The collapse was yours. He looked up at me with something like fear. Real fear, not anger, not arrogance. Fear. You were supposed to be alone, he said. You were supposed to need us. There it was. The confession he didn't know he was making. I leaned against the doorframe, comfortable, unmoved. I was, I said, until I wasn't. My phone buzzed. A message? From the resort concierge asking if I wanted to extend my stay. I smiled down at the screen, then looked back at him. This is where you stop, I said softly. He reached for me. I stepped back. I closed the door, locked it, and for the first time in my life, I didn't listen to him fall apart. I packed that night. Lightly. Only things I needed. The house was too big for silence now, and I was done carrying echoes. At the airport, I blocked numbers one by one. Mother, father, brother, relatives who had watched and said nothing. I didn't announce it. I didn't explain. I just disappeared. Cold revenge isn't loud. It doesn't scream. It removes oxygen and lets the fire suffocate itself. As the plane lifted, I felt something detach inside me. A final thread snapping cleanly. They had lost a daughter, a sister, a solution. I lost nothing. The quiet came later, not immediately, not like in movies, where the music fades and the screen goes black and everything suddenly makes sense. No, it came in pieces. At first, it was the silence of my phone. No buzzing, no vibrating panic, no names flashing like warnings, just a dark screen. Then it was the silence in my chest. That constant tightness I had mistaken for loyalty, for love, for responsibility. Gone. I sat by the window of the plane, watching clouds tear apart beneath us, and I realized something strange. I wasn't sad. I wasn't angry either. I was empty, and empty felt clean. I thought I would grieve them, the family I thought I had. The role I had played so well, forgot it was a cage. But grief requires loss, and what I lost had never truly existed. They hadn't loved me. They had used me. My brother needed a fixer. My parents needed peace at any cost. I was the cost. I closed my eyes and remembered every time I swallowed words. Every apology I gave for things I didn't do. Every moment I bent myself smaller so they could stand taller. I let those memories burn out quietly. No tears, no shaking, just release. When the plane landed, I didn't rush. I let everyone else stand, grab bags, push forward like escape was urgent. I stayed seated, breathing, feeling my body for the first time in years. I wasn't going back. Not to the house, not to the role, not to the version of me they kept alive because it was useful. Outside, the air was warm and unfamiliar. Good. I rented a small place near the water. Nothing fancy, nothing temporary either. A place where no one knew my history, where no one expected anything. Days passed, then weeks. I slept deeply. I ate slowly. I spoke less. And in the quiet, something else happened. My mind stopped rehearsing conversations that would never happen. My heart stopped waiting for apologies that would never come. My hands stopped reaching for people who only took. One morning, I woke up and realized I hadn't thought about them at all the day before. That's when I knew it was over. Not the fight, not the conflict, the connection. They still existed somewhere, scrambling to rebuild the world they broke. But I was no longer part of the structure. I was the missing piece they would never replace. I changed my number. I changed my name on paperwork. I didn't post. I didn't announce. I didn't explain. I simply vanished from their story. And for the first time, the story belonged to me. At night, when the water goes still and the world holds its breath, I sometimes think of my brother's face at the door. The moment he realized I was no longer his, not his sister, not his shield, not his solution, just a closed door. And I smile, because the coldest revenge wasn't the exposure. It wasn't the collapse. It was this. I survived them, and they have to live knowing they lost the only person who ever cared enough to stay.